7th, 2021 to order. And the prayer, Sue, please.
Mr. Chairman, dear Father, please guide us in the months ahead. You know, things are changing every day, whether it be by flooding, by water, by COVID. But remember the value in relationships and our neighbors and our communities. That's what's important, and we please guide us.
Thank you, Sue.
Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In case of fire or other emergency, there's three exits room, there, and there. In case of such emergency, please proceed to the nearest staircase. Exit the building, move as far away from the building as you can. If you need assistance, please ask for help. Thank you.
Roll call, please, Deb.
Mr. Hankey.
Here.
Mrs. Fedler. I'm here. Mr. Ferguson. Mr. Shaw.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Fisher.
Here.
Mr. Hicks.
Here.
Mr. Ward.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Half.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Skelly.
Here.
Mr. Hogan.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mrs. Clary.
Here.
Mr. Griffith.
Here.
And Mr. Roselle.
Here.
Okay. Clerk will read the notice of special meeting.
By letter dated September 3rd, 2021, you are hereby directed to call a special meeting of the Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 at 11 following purpose. 1, consider resolution to approve Quadrant Biosciences contract. 2, discuss changes to open meeting law. 3, other such business as may properly come.
Okay. And Supervisor's privilege of the floor. Seeing none, I am going to extend my privilege myself here. I would like to thank all the supervisors for making a real effort to show up for this special meeting. I know it was very short fuse, but it was precipitated by a short fuse issue with the schools across our county that was precipitated by actions by the state. And the resolution that we were about to entertain was scheduled to be brought before the Human Services Committee today. And then we were going to vote on it at our regular meeting because the time thing allowed for that. And then the state, I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday, contacted the schools and pushed up their plan for their testing, hence which made it necessary for us to approve the funding sooner so the schools can actually put that in their plan and go ahead and know that they're going to have the funding to do that. So I thank everyone for coming for that purpose. We'll now introduce the resolutions, please.
Resolution number 176 by Supervisors Clary, Campbell, Hicks, Skelly, Ward, Wilson, title authorizing and approving a contract with Quadrant Biosciences for COVID testing pursuant to funding for school testing programs in Washington County.
We have a motion to move that.
Chairman, I'd like to move motion to move resolution number 176, please.
Moved by Supervisor Clary. Do we have seconds? Supervisor Hankey, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Skelly, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Griffith, Supervisor Roselle. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Half.
I'm the only one, really?
We just discussed it.
In Human Services.
I'm sorry for you to repeat this, but if this is a grant, I assume there'll be no cost to the schools at the end because we're going to increase the appropriation as a grant, 1.7 million.
So this is what happens. It's a reimbursement grant, first of all, so we have to spend the money before we get the money. So they took the total amount of the grant, they divided it up between the schools on a per capita student basis. Each school is being notified of how much funding they're going to get. We're going to sign a contract, the county, with Quadrant Biosciences to allow $20 test kit purchases, which includes the processing and results and providing the results back to the school. Each school can choose to take its money in either test kits or conducting some other approved activity under the grant. for the funding to the schools. We'll either take the kit and then we'll end up applying for reimbursement for a kit or conduct the other approved activity, in which case we'll apply for reimbursement through that and pass it through to the school.
Okay, are we gonna be the warehouse for the kids? Will the school
No, the
get
school will
their
get, the
appropriation
school,
for the year?
if the school asks for X number of kits, we'll get them X number of kits. They have a shelf life of approximately a year, I was told. So if for some reason they don't go through them this year, they'll be around, and the test comes with the kit. So if you buy 100 kits, you have the right to have 100 kits tested.
Okay, and this is all upon the school's regimen. There is no extra work on the county Department of Public Health to do anything. The school nurse do the swab, I assume, and then they send it out to be tested.
We're not conducting the test, we're just providing the kits. I won't say there's no extra work because, every time they're doing something that involves this, that means they're not doing something they used to do. But, and the committee had agreed, there was a holdback for admin costs. The committee had instructed Tina to not take that because those costs would be reimbursed through other funding streams and to plow that money into actually buying more test kits.
Okay, $1.7 million buys a lot of $20 kits, but I'm assuming a child might be tested multiple times throughout the year.
Yeah, the testing is determined by the school. So if, for example, they were going to be doing surveillance testing, as in 10% of my population each week, they would obviously burn through them quicker than if they were testing somebody who was symptomatic and might be showing up. And the other thing you have to remember is they can only test people whose parents consent to them being tested. And so you don't know what percentage of the student population will consent. The teachers who are unvaccinated have to be.
Testing regimen by each school is okay, or are we hands off?
No, we're hands off on that.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't see Tina shaking too badly back there, so it must be I was pretty close.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Supervisor comments. Does any supervisors have any comments at this point in time? And maybe you will have after a comment that I have to make here to bring up to you.
Are we talking about the open meetings law?
Pardon?
Are we gonna talk about the open meetings law before we finish?
Yes, that's what we're gonna do now,
Oh.
under this portion of it, supervisor's comments. So, some of you probably saw that at the end of the governor's, bill that she proposed, on the home rental extension, there was a paragraph at the end that talked about that she has rescinded the open meeting laws, for the period from now until the period of January, 22nd, 2022. And so that means that this puts us back in a position where we would be at the original beginning of the pandemic as far as how we conduct our meetings. So one of the things that I wanted to propose and breach today would be a hybrid form of meeting where we do some in person that want to come in person, and those that want to Zoom can Zoom. We would set the facility all up like it was before, and we would conduct business within that manner. Now, to add to our concern about that is we've had one person test positive in probation, one in building and grounds, one in DMV, but that's forced we have reduced it over there with Stephanie's guidance, because she had enough staff that she could do 2 personnel, and they could drop stuff in the drop box, and she'd do those. She worked all day yesterday trying to reach out to the individuals that had made appointments to cancel them. Her feeling is now that she would need to go probably the rest of the week based on some of the symptomatic things that the other employees are showing that were in the quarantine. She just won't have enough to do it. Across the hallway to the county clerk's office, she had one that tested positive. Another one who was going to be quarantined, who said that they were having a burning sensation in their chest, which is now one of the new symptoms with this the variant D virus. So she's going to be tested, but probably she will be out as well. And we also had one that tested positive in the dispatchers with the public safety aspect. And so that's where we are at this point in time. With the feel safe coming in, we want to be prepared to be able to go to that. So if we get to that area, we can do this. I just looking for some input and some comment on that. Supervisor Brad.
I think with the increase of COVID, not getting any better, I think we should protect our staff and everyone that we can. Go back to hybrid meetings for those who don't feel comfortable coming.
So the other thing that I mentioned too is that going back to the beginning of the pandemic, and because of the way she instituted this, the requirement for a supervisor to say, I'm going to be online from attending at the town hall or another facility, you don't have, that requirement is not there. You can join on by telephone or by Zoom, however you want to do that, all right, as long as we streamline the program, which we intend to continue doing at this point in time. So that should make it a little easier for them. So if Timothy was on the road and he wanted to join the meeting, he'd be able to. Whatever the case may be. Yes, Dave.
Does this also mean that meetings aren't open to the public, or?
Well, that's our call. And it depends, I think, that we need to discuss that at the appropriate time when we start getting more COVID cases going in. The law, the way it is, it specifically says that the municipalities do not have to open up their facilities to lobbyists, constituents, news groups, etc. It goes down to about 4 or 5 different categories. It's almost time we're going to have to take and address our media exposure in more departments that we've had in the past, and it looks like it may pyramid. So yes, Dana.
If you're an employee, a fully vaccinated employee in a department, are we making them quarantine, or are they okay because they're fully vaccinated?
No, they're not okay because a lot of the ones that we've had have been breakthrough. People have already been vaccinated.
I think the CDC says if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine.
Well, I think I'll let Tina answer that.
It changes every week, so.
No, I know. So she'll give us the most current data. Can you come to the microphone, please, Tina?
You don't, is this on? Can you guys hear me? You don't have to vaccinate, or you don't have to quarantine if you're fully vaccinated, if you're asymptomatic. So when we get a list of contacts, they go into our system, they go out to the state contact tracers, they verify the person's vaccination status. And if they're fully vaccinated, and the contact tracers will go through all the different symptoms that you could have with COVID. If you are fully asymptomatic and fully vaccinated, then you do not have to quarantine. But you do have to monitor for symptoms for yourself, for symptoms for 14 days and wear a mask, obviously for 14 days. The other CDC recommendation is that within 3 to 5 days of your exposure date, even if you are fully vaccinated, they do recommend that you go get tested because there's a lot of people out there that are asymptomatic but are COVID positive. So just, that's the CDC recommendation.
But we are not sending all of DMV home or anything like that if there's one person that tests positive.
So,
and the other employees are fully vaccinated and show no symptoms, we're not sending them home, are we?
right, so it happened over the weekend. So we put it out to our contact tracing team at the state, everybody that we were given as contacts. So then the contact tracing team, they would verify their vaccination status and release them at that point if they were asymptomatic, and they would not have to quarantine, and they could come to work.
So they might go home for a day until they're
Until the information's verified. We just don't have the staff right now to be able to do that ourselves. It's going out to the state. There are instances where it does get elevated to us, and we will go in and check the person and call the person ourselves and verify that they have no symptoms. It's hard for, I guess, other department heads to verify symptoms or not, because there's a whole list of symptoms that it's just not the ones that you hear on the news. There's other symptoms as well associated with COVID that you wouldn't think would be COVID, but ends up being. So we really like to go to our contact tracing team or be pushed to us if need be.
My question, Sam, is the county sending fully vaccinated people with no symptoms home to quarantine for 14 days?
No, that's being evaluated. She just explained to you the way it was being handled.
That's what the CDC's, but what is the county policy?
The county policy is to follow the CDC guidance.
Okay, thank you.
And some of those people in DMV had not been vaccinated. That's where the biggest problem is coming in, Dana, at this point in time. Matt was next, if you would, please.
You know, if someone has been traced, but they're fully vaccinated, they're required to get a test 5 days after that exposure.
It's not required, it's just a recommendation.
Oh, it's not required. Let's say they wanted to be tested.
It could be.
Where? How does that happen? If some constituent asks me, geez, where can I get tested?
Yep, they can go to Hudson Headwaters on Broad Street.
Okay,
That's a walk-in. You just pull up, you dial the number, and they'll call you in when they're ready. They test you, you go back to your car and wait, and then they'll call you when you actually do get to see like a PA or a physician while you're there. And that will be a rapid test that they're doing right then. If you've been exposed or if you are having symptoms, they'll do a PCR test. And that can take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to come back for that additional negative test.
so Hudson Headwaters is really the only opportunity.
No, there's other places as well. You can go online and look. There's different places. CVS is also doing testing.
Okay.
Yeah, there's other places as well, other than Hudson Headwaters. But Hudson Headwaters is a good one because you can pull right in and,
Is that information on your website? So if the constituent went to your website, they can figure out where they can get it tested?
yes.
Go to a school. They got a bunch. Yes, John?
Out of the recent ones in the county, have they been vaccinated, or can you?
Yeah, we don't want to get into that with,
Some have, some haven't.
right, I think we taken. And probably should just leave it at that. Y'all know the criteria, we just discussed them. So, because we're talking about a small enough pool of people that who's vaccinated and who's not vaccinated, that we don't have a mandate vaccine policy here. So the folks that are in charge of putting people out, and, no department head is making this decision. It's being made in conjunction with public health as to who should be where, when. And just to clarify, I thought Tina had said that Tim had a positive down there, but it was not. It was an exposure. It wasn't actually an employee who was positive. But you have to wait, till the contact tracing's done, so that takes some time. So I think Stephanie has been in consultation with, over the weekend, I know, because I saw the emails, with Tim, with Tina and her folks over there, and we're following the rules. There are no special rules for Washington County employees. There's no extra sick time. There's no anything other than we're following the process, and if you're vaccinated, there's one process. If you're not vaccinated, there's another process, and we're following those processes.
When would this go into effect?
Immediately.
So this afternoon's meeting or
Well, after
Thursday's meeting?
Let's go on, today's Tuesday, be Wednesday.
Tomorrow. So Finance Thursday, we could zoom in.
Yes,
And the shared services meeting, we could zoom in.
yes.
And then, I'm sorry, and the ACC meeting?
Yes. We're good to go, right?
The ACC meeting's being scheduled by SUNY Adirondack.
But I believe that they're still gonna be doing theirs on Zoom is the way I understood it, but
Will we be advised of that on Thursday at regular finance about that meeting on Friday? Could we?
Yeah, as soon as I thought ACC would let me know if there was any change from in-person by today. So we'll find out.
And let us know on Thursday. Thank you.
Yeah, as soon as we know, you'll know.
Tim, you had your hand, it was just got that one answer, okay. Well, we're still on this subject, because it is relevant, the schools, I know you sent the thing out on it, but could you articulate the issue with the schools, several schools with not being able to pick kids up on buses in case they get asked as supervisors?
We're just working through the superintendents and public health to clarify some school rules. There's a couple different rules that some schools may have in effect through their own medical director, but has no bearing on public health or the county.
Right.
No additional rules or anything above CDC guidance or what we're doing. So.
Okay, and there were 3 schools in particular that we were concerned about that had,
You haven't confirmed that.
haven't confirmed that yet, we're still working on that, okay. Yes, Dan?
I understand it's an option we have according to what the governor has stated, right? And we're exercising that because of the increase in positive tests here at the county. When we accept this or move forward with this, is this going to be until January or until we feel comfortable?
Till we feel comfortable, Dan.
Okay.
Then we can, yeah, there's no need to extend any longer than we need to. but we see a spike up in our own organization, and I think we need
Yes,
to
I
address that
understand, yep, thank you.
and do the best we can. Dana?
But I think, to answer Dan's point, we cannot suspend the open meetings law. Only the governor can, and you said something, so they're gonna suspend the open meetings law until January 22. So Dan's point is, after January 22, we could not say we want to continue it.
That's correct.
The governor does not allow us to.
That's correct.
But we can also do it sooner if we feel comfortable.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
have to suspend the open meeting, but we're allowed to.
Right.
It's January 15th, by the way, just checking
Yeah, 22.
just double checking the statute here in front of me. It's actually, not that that week makes a heck of a difference, but 2022, right? All 22s.
Yeah.
Just for fully understanding this, is this something that by resolution we have to do since the governor allows us to do it?
We don't need to do it by resolution according to council.
Okay,
That's what we have.
It's simply an option that you have that you didn't have before. And really, all it's doing is saying two things. One is, you no longer have to announce where you are when you appear remotely. And the second one is you don't have to let the public inside the building if you have some of us inside the building, some of you inside the building. I'm always inside the building. As long as you live stream it.
thank you.
So it's just like what it was a few months ago.
You got it.
So,
I struggle with this, with the, like, at one point, the school shut down, not due to a COVID case. There was a COVID case, but the amount of exposure to unvaccinated staff and teachers. And the school was actually shut down for that period of time. People were, staff and teachers could have been out for 14 days. It's hard when you don't have broadband and you're not getting your education. So I can appreciate everybody's freedom of choice, but I really, really encourage people to get vaccinated. It impacts the economy, it impacts education, it impacts government. With the CDC guidelines, it's nothing that any of us can do anything about, but it's important to think about the overall health and well-being of our, just everything, education, kids, people, communities. So it's important. So I hope anyone that's not will go get vaccinated.
okay, any other comments? Then hearing none, that effective starting for Thursday's meetings, we will be on a hybrid model. And until we get the numbers start dropping down and we start to get to a point where we can maybe hopefully come back sooner, all of us together. Okay? All right, is there any other supervisors' comments? Seeing none, once again, I'll thank everybody for coming on such a short notice, and we will be adjourned.